So for my recipe, I'm going to be making a tart using sea beet, bacon, some really nice new potatoes, and then this maple smoked dragon cheddar. So the first thing I want to get on with is making the pastry, and I'm using plain flour and then a little bit of salted butter. Got 250 grams of plain flour here, and then 125 grams of the salted butter. And I just want to combine the two. And then add some water. So 125 grams of water. And I always weigh my water out as well. You get a really sort of accurate measurement that way. So this goes in. And I always get like mixing things with my hands. I find it much better than a spoon or a spatula. Bring this together. I should add that the butter has been in the fridge for 10 minutes or so, just to make sure it's nice and firm. In fact, you can even just tip this all out onto your work surface and combine all of those ingredients. So the type of pastry that we're making is rough puff pastry. It's a much easier, more straightforward pastry than proper puff pastry, which you can spend 6 hours or so making, giving it really careful folds. This is a bit more rustic, but you still get some really lovely flaky pastry as a result. So that's coming together. Now I'm going to get my rolling pin involved. So you've still got quite big chunks of butter in there, you want to spread those out, to roll them out until they're a little bit flatter. So there we go, you can see the long strands of butter. We're going to layer those up multiple times, so when the pastry hits the oven, it's going to expand really nicely. So that's rolled out once. Now we want to give it a fold. So the top goes into the middle, the bottom goes into the middle, then we fold the whole thing over. So that's had one fold now. We've built in those layers once. Repeat exactly the same thing. So those layers that we built up being stretched out even further. Again, the far end into the middle, the bottom end into the middle, fold it over once again. And we want to give it one more fold. There should still be enough flour so you can dust it around. If not, just grab a little bit more. But already this pastry is feeling really nice, and the danger is you really don't want to work this too much. This should all come together pretty quickly. We don't want any excess gluten developing in the pastry. Fold that together, lovely, and that is your rough puff pastry. Super quick, super easy. I'm going to wrap this in some greaseproof paper, pop it in the fridge, let it rest for 20 minutes, and we'll come back to it later. Okay, so my pastry has chilled down nicely. The reason for doing that is the butter, it really needs to cool down. If we carried on working it while it was getting warmer and warmer, the butter would melt, the pastry would just kind of go greasy and soggy in the oven rather than crisp and light. So, we want to roll it out now. I've got a tin here. This is a 23cm tin. A loose base, that'll do the job. You'll also need a little bit of flour to roll this out. Sprinkle that underneath, and on top, got my rolling pin here. Just give that a nice dusting as well. Right. You want to apply sort of gentle but firm pressure. Rolling it out nice and evenly. And so we're making a kind of effectively a quiche with this pastry, and that's quite rare with flaky pastry. Normally you'd use a short crust or something a bit finer. I just really like the sort of crispiness you get from a good flaky pastry in a quiche. Works really nicely. Let's see how this is doing. That'll be plenty big enough. So now we just want to drop the pastry into the tart case. This is a non-stick tart case, so we don't need to worry about lining it with anything. And then we just want to push the pastry into the corners. Lifting it up as we go around. Perfect. So now grab yourself a little bit of greaseproof paper. We want to line that pastry with something, add some baking beans and give it a blind bake. Here we go, that'll do the job nicely. Firstly, I'm just going to trim some of the excess pastry off. This will come in handy for all sorts of things. For one thing, I always like keeping a little bit until the tart is blind baked in case we need to do any patching up later on. Set that to one side. That pastry is nicely lining the tart case. Let's pop in the greaseproof paper. These are little ceramic baking beans. You can use coins or barley or any kind of dried pulse as well. And with flaky pastry, it's really important that you do use some form of baking bean. That butter, those layers of butter, when they hit the heat, they're going to expand, they're going to grow, going to push the other layers up. If we didn't have anything keeping them down, we basically have no room for any filling. Pop this on a tray. That goes in the oven at 200 degrees for an initial quarter of an hour. So the tarts had 15 minutes in the oven at 220. Let's get it out and have a look. Here we go. So you can see it's nice golden colour all around the outside. That's really good. Now we just need to bake it a little bit more without the beans to crisp it up all the way through. So this goes back into the oven at 160 for another 15 minutes. So while the tart is blind baking, I want to get on with the filling. So here we've got some really lovely organic Welsh bacon. And then this is some sea beet that I've picked from the coast, Menai Straits, just next to the Anglesey Sea Salt Company and opposite South Carnarvon Creameries. So sea beet, a lovely vegetable, really nice and salty and a nice sort of crisp crunch to it. So I'm going to start by chopping a little bit of bacon. Here we've got about 150 grams, just into little lardons. Perfect, and this just goes in a nice hot pan. A little bit of olive oil. And we'll let that sizzle away. Next up we've got some new potatoes. These are Anglesey new potatoes. They're really, really delicious. They've got a sort of nice creaminess to them, super fresh. And I just want to cut these into little chunks. These have just been boiled in a little bit of salted water. So that bacon is crisping up nicely. Got the potatoes ready to go. Got the sea beet ready to go. You can start on the filling. I really, really like these Dragon handcrafted cheeses. So there's 4 of them. We've got a smoked one, smoked over maple chippings, one with Llanw sea salt, as an employee of Llanw, close to my heart. This with a little bit of whiskey and absolutely delicious, then a cave-aged cheddar here as well. So, Had to choose one, I'm using this smoked cheese for my tart. So really nice savoury tart, you know, you've got bacon, potatoes, smoked cheese is going to work really, really nicely. So, cut this open, have a little taste. That's delicious, and just how I like my smoky products. You can taste it's a delicious cheddar, and then they've added a layer of smokiness onto that. Really nice. And I want to use half a block, and I'm just going to cut this into little cubes. Just give my bacon a stir. I'm cutting them into cubes as opposed to grating. So in the finished tart you'll get little melted pools of the cheese coming through. Give it a bit more of a hit than if we just grated it. There we go. Just pop that in with the potatoes. So this bacon's getting nice and crispy. I now want to add in some of the sea beet. And I've probably got a little bit too much there. I'm just going to chuck in a couple of handfuls and let that wilt down a little bit. I should note this has just been rinsed under a cold tap before I use it. I'll just get a little knob of butter for this as well. There we go. And that'll just soften down nicely and take on some of the flavour from the bacon. So I'll get the eggs on the go. I want to use 6. So 3 whole eggs. 2, 3. And then 3 yolks. This is quite a sort of rich, indulgent tart, but one that's got absolutely bags of flavour. In go those yolks. So that's everything in there now. We've got the sea beet and the bacon, the potatoes and the cheese, the eggs just mixed through about half a pint of double cream, seasoned with a little bit of sea salt and black pepper. This is ready to go into the oven. About 180 degrees for around about half an hour. So we've had the half an hour, the tart should be ready now. I'll have a little look. What you're looking for is the top to be nice and firm, but not overly set. You don't want a kind of rubbery tart, but equally you don't want to have liquid eggs and cream. Oh, it's looking good. There we go. So, you can see it's risen slightly. That shows that the eggs are nicely cooked, but there's still just a little bit of give to it. I'm going to let that cool down for about a quarter of an hour, and I'm going to slice it open, have a little taste. So here we have the finished tart. It's cooled down nicely, it's still a little bit warm. I'm going to cut into it, have a little taste. So the pastry is nice and flaky, filling is nicely set. You can smell that smoked cheddar from here. Woofed. Yes, that's what we're talking about. You can see the little chunks of cheese in there. Yeah, that really hits the spot. Nice and savoury, nice and filling. And that smokiness, the rich cheese is coming through really well. And it is actually delicious. Okay, so there you have it. My bacon, potato, sea beet and smoked dragon cheddar tart is ready to go. Thank you very much for watching. We're going to be posting the recipe now. Love to see how yours come out at home. Thanks for watching.